I must admit that I had never taken the time to visit the Beijing Planning Exhibition Hall, which is located about 300 metres due east of Tianmen Station on Line 2, slap bang next to the old railway station which is now a museum. Blink and you'd miss it. From the outside, it is anything but grand. It's not the kind of place you'd wander into by mistake, and I haven't met anyone among my circle of friends who's ever actually been there. The exhibition hall is more of a museum dedicated to the history, urban planning and future image of the Chinese capital. The four-story building covers an area of 16,000 square meters in total. When it first opened its gates in 2004, it carried an exhibition about how Beijing would look after the reconstruction due to the Olympic Games in 2008. Anyone with even a basic interest of how Beijing ended up the city it is today will find plenty to interest them here. As you enter, you cannot fail to notice the bronze sculpture that shows off the geographic features of the small, gulf-like plain of Beijing, surrounded by mountain ranges on three sides, together with its 6 ring roads. And a mystery is solved. My last visit to the Olympic Constructional Exhibition Hall left me wondering where many of the original exhibits had disappeared off to, after they had cleared out a lot of the original exhibition to make room for a what to do in the event of an earthquake display. I had noted that they had even renamed the hall Beijing Planning Exhibition Hall. Now, hold on a moment, aren't I in the Beijing Planning Exhibition Hall? And aren't those flags the one that used to hang in the Olympic Park building? They sure are. There's the flag that Beijing Mayor Wang Qishun took over from the president of the Olympic Committee at the close of the Athens 2004 Olympics. Not to mention the flag of the Paralympics that Vice Mayor Liu Jingmin was given by the president of the Paralympic Committee. On a higher floor, some of the models that were removed from the Olympic Park have found a new home also, thank goodness. It would have been a shame to have lost them, I think. Throughout the exhibition hall, there's a plethora of pink-jacketed ladies whose job it is to stand there and smile at the visitors. Sometimes I think they outnumber the visitors. Certainly, they all perk up at the sight of your favourite podcaster, force a smile, and then go back to what passes for sleep once I pass. I wonder how much training they've had for that onerous task. On the wall overlooking the first escalator is a bronze relief of the old city of Beijing back in 1949, when the PRC was founded and Beijing was chosen as its capital. It's been made at a scale of 1 to 1,000 apparently. If you look carefully, you can even count some 100,000 buildings and 60,000 trees, along with roads, lakes and rivers, in this 9 by 10 metre wide wall plan. I can't find anything more about the bronze relief, which is a pity given that someone obviously put a lot of effort into it. But no worry, we're next given the opportunity to view models of the Forbidden City lying on the north-south axis of Beijing. As we all know, Beijing's central axis first took shape in 1267 when Kublai Khan founded Dadu. All Beijing's important buildings stand on this axis: Yongdingmen, Zhengyangmen, Mao's Mausoleum, Tiananmen, Forbidden City, Wanchungting Pavilion in Jinshan Park, Drum and Bell Towers, and the Olympic Center, with the axis clearly shown throughout the Olympic Park. Of course, city axes are not unique to Beijing. They can also be found in other parts of the world, most notably in Paris, where the Louvre Palace was completed in the 16th century and stretches through the Place de la Concorde, the Avenue des Champs-Élysées, and the Arc de Triomphe, ending at La Défense. Likewise, Washington, D.C. has its axis starting at Capitol Hill and ending at the Potomac River, with the Washington Monument and Lincoln Memorial Hall also to be found on the 4.5-kilometer line. But we're jumping ahead. This exhibition hall also gives you some information on Beijing's much older past, such as a map that shows Paleolithic and Neolithic sites and where they found loads of stone tools. Beijing's history can actually be traced back to 1046 BC, when King Wulong of the Western Zhou dynasty conquered the Shang dynasty and conferred the titles of nobility on Emperor Yao's descendants in Ji, which is what Beijing was called back then. With the establishment and unification of the Qin and Han dynasties, Ji evolved from the capital city of a small state to a military stronghold of the central government. It was centered just south of where Beijing West Station now stands. In 1153, King Hailing named his capital Zhongdu, which was the first time that Beijing became the capital city of a dynasty. In 1263, Emperor Kublai Khan of the Yuan dynasty established his capital in what is now Inner Mongolia and named it Chengdu. But he obviously saw the error of his ways, as just 9 years later he moved his capital to Yanjing and renamed it Dadu. This was the first time that Beijing became the capital city of a unified country. In 1368, the Ming seized Dadu and named it Beiping, meaning Northern Peace. But when Emperor Zhu Di was enthroned, he renamed it Beijing, Northern Capital. In 1644, the Qing seized Beijing and made it their capital city. It was also called Jingshi. Fast forward 3 centuries, and with the founding of the Republic of China in 1928, Beijing was renamed Beiping. The occupying Japanese in 1937 then imposed the name Beijing. Then, with their surrender in 1945, the nationalist government restored Beiping. But you can't keep a good name down for long, so with the founding of the PRC in 1949, it once again became Beijing. Peking, in case you were wondering, is a spelling created by French missionaries of the 17th and 18th centuries and was the English name for the city until the adoption of pinyin in 1958. Phew, I hope you followed that. You can also see how the contour of Beijing changed over the centuries, right from the time of Dadu in 1272. As if that wasn't exciting enough, there's a map of Beijing's hutongs in 1917. If you ever wondered about the origin of the word hutong, or alleyway, one of the explanations is that it comes from Mongolian meaning a well. You have to remember that wells served as the main water supply in the city, which made them synonymous with the residential areas, and thus they became the name of the alleyways. The alleyways and courtyard houses also centered around the wells. Talking of courtyard houses, the Sihiyuan was a typical private residence which usually had an independent compound composed of the main building facing south, with east and west wings and a southern building. The entrance gate was usually found in the southeast corner. Without a doubt, the pièce de résistance of the entire museum that everyone comes to see is a huge, detailed model of Beijing taking up just over 300 square meters. Where the model makers finally ran out of balsa wood and plastic, they have a floor featuring aerial shots of the city in the same size ratio of 1 to 750. Altogether, the model and photo floor take up 1,000 square meters. What I find somewhat strange are the warning notices liberally placed around the model telling you not to stand so close together that more than 4 people squeeze into a 1-meter area. I mean, why on earth would a 5th person want to crowd into such a small space? I did nearer for a closer look. Yes, there is the new CCTV building where I while away so much of my time. But the building in which I live just across the road is certainly not that shape, and they seem to have overlooked my favourite vegetable shop, which I look down onto from my bedroom window every morning. On the 4th floor, there's an area devoted to the city's transportation. Ever wondered what a tunnel boring machine looks like? Wonder no more. A tunnel boring machine, also known as a mole, is a machine with a circular cross-section which has a rotating cutting wheel in the front and a conveyor belt at the back to remove the earth and rock. There are a number of what are referred to as hologram movies showcasing the evolution of transport in the city. During the period at the end of the Ming dynasty to the beginning of the Qing dynasty, freight caravans entered Beijing through Fuchengmen. From the end of the Qing dynasty to the founding of New China, Zhengyangmen East Railway Station, i.e. the station next door to the Spanning Hall, was the largest station in Beijing. In 1924, Beijing officially opened its first streetcar line running from Changmen to Shijimen. In 1956, the first trolleybus in Beijing was tested successfully. Its basic design has changed little over the past 6 decades. You can even find models of some of the rolling stock used on Beijing's subway system. You can see what the earliest carriages looked like on the original Pingguo Yuan line, renamed Line 1, it being the earliest subway line in China. Prior to the 2008 Olympics, the SRM04 type of rolling stock was formally put into operation on Line 1, and there's a modern carriage as found on the Fengshan line in the southwest of Beijing. Up till now throughout the museum there have been ample signs in English, But for some strange reason, when we get to the section on Beijing being a low-carbon eco-city, showing China's commitment to new energy utilization, waste processing, water recycling, and a low-carbon architecture, everything is in Chinese only. It's almost as if they think that foreign visitors, are there any apart from me, won't be interested. Or maybe it's just work in progress, and new notices will magically appear one day. We're nearly finished, but on returning to the ground floor, I spy a notice in Chinese and German, and make my way to a hidden area I hadn't even noticed when I first came in. There are loads of explanations in Chinese and German. How many German visitors come here, I ask myself, about town planning in Beijing, Paris, London, Chicago, Nanjing, and Berlin. It's a collaborative effort put on by the Goethe Institute in China. Once again, I marvel at how my schoolboy German has come in useful yet again here in Beijing. It's uncanny. When I was but a lad, my father used to drill into me that I would need German in the future to understand scientific texts. I never read a single scientific text in German, as it turned out. But again and again, the Kaiser's vernacular has proven itself to be really useful, not just here in Beijing, but also when I used to work in Riyadh many moons ago. Many Saudi Arabian archaeological teams were trained in Berlin apparently, so there are many Germans there too. I read about London as it was back in 1907, together with an imaginary plan of London also dating back to 1907 that never came to fruition. Is there no end to the things I learn about my home country all these thousands of miles away? My 2 seconds of homesickness rapidly fade away as I make my way to the exit door and head off into the sunshine outside. Really, why everyone isn't advised to come to this exhibition hall when they first arrive in Beijing, I will never know. Another hidden gem to add to my collection.